You guys wonder what the hell I'm talking about there, but anyway, I am now recording.
Thank you.
I'll end that poll, and oh, I don't need to share. I don't need to share the results. Don't need to do that. Oh, I'll get used to this, folks. Honest, I will. I just want to throw another question at you. Stop that. Okay, they're sharing the results. Okay, if you can stop addressing that particular one, and all I've got to do now is find the other question that I'd got set up all so nicely for you. And all right, I might have to forgive this rookie mistake. I'll get used to it. I do have a second question, you see, and that's the that's just what I'm trying to. Yeah, okay, there we go. I do beg your pardon. All right, I just want to throw a question at you, a multiple choice question, and it's about the sociological imagination. Have a look, have a consider, see what you think is the correct answer, and just indicate it in the poll.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Kira?
How do I find this poll?
It should, where is the poll? Anybody can tell us?
It just pops up on the screen usually, like you can't actually do anything about it.
Yeah, same.
Have you got it now?
Little window.
Have you got it now?
I didn't get the last poll either. It's not
Right.
popping up. Right.
Okay, Kira. If there's others like that, not much I can. Not much I can do.
Are you using a browser? Do you have like a pop-up block on or something? Because sometimes that could be.
It could be. I'll check on that actually. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, that's yeah. What do we got? We got 56% in now. All right. I see that things are still coming in, but I'm going to end the polling in a moment, just so we can see what we've got. Oh, look, we're nearly there. How'd you go, Kira? Did you sort that one out?
No.
No. All right. Well, that might be something for the next time. Kira, well, I'll be putting it up in a minute, but it's a question is, which of the following best describes the sociological imagination? Comparative study of society, locating individual dilemmas and actions in broader social frameworks and structures, studying society, writing about people with sociological awareness, applying theory to society, social research conducted with a future orientation, imagining the potentials and problems for human society. I'm going to end it right now, and I'm going to share the results. And can you see the results now there, folks? Is that right? Yeah, I see a nod in a couple of spaces. Thanks for that. Okay, so ideally, what I'd really like to do with this is send you all into, I'm not going to do it now, but I think in the future we may well do this. And Alex, this should become even clearer for you. I'd actually like to send, I'd probably even ideally put up a couple of questions, or we work out how to get in and out with this, but drop you then into a discussion group so you can actually work out the answer rather than have it delivered to you. You know, just go back and say, well, actually, what is the correct answer? It's not always going to be the most popular one. In this case, the most accurate response is the second one. It's the one that 40% of you went for. Of course, I'm not looking for 40%. It'd be better to have it at 100% there, that's all recognized. But this is a new concept. It's a new kind of idea. But it is about placing the individual within a broader social framework, recognizing that personal issues personal matters are social issues. That's one of the kind of catchphrases that picks it up. So writing with the sociological imagination would certainly be picking up that, but that's not. I can see why people go for the third one, but that's not really capturing the essence of the sociological imagination. All right, what I'm going to do, I will use this kind of approach throughout. We'll be using these kinds of questions that'll pick up some of the week's work, and we should be able to from there to just, it should allow us to hone in on some questions, get some ideas about how the knowledge development's going. But what of course I most want to do is to be able to get you to connect with each other around this. I just want to share a few slides with you, and then we'll move into an activity together. Because as I said, I'm really not going to lecture as I did last week again in this setting. I'll just bring up the slides. Okay, so same, different, old, new, what's going on here with globalization. So this particular workshop aims at consolidating your ideas about key concepts and ideas of the module under consideration. You're not expected to complete your preparation of the work in the module. Rather, we'll be aiming at strengthening and consolidating your ideas about the scapes of globalization, sociological imagination, and anthropological perspectives, disciplinary differences, and complements. So that's a part of it. Now, when I say, you know, you're not expected to, because I just see that as something that's there for the tutorial, but I will be signaling to you as early as I can what we will consider in the workshop. So what the workshop will allow us to do is cover some of the material here, and then allows a space for the tutorial discussion not to be as rushed and vexed as it might otherwise be. So we can focus in on half or parts of the material for the week. And the other thing that we want to consider are key concepts, particularly flowscapes, culture economy, and globalization, just to get some sense of that. Okay, so to be covered: sociological imagination, peer learning, evaluating Miller, Griffith, and Marion's portrait of globalization, evaluating a Pagerized application of the flow metaphor and the use of scapes, and the application to the radio program. And I also want to spend a few moments just looking at transferable skills as well, just having a bit of a think about that within the scope of what we're doing, and just some of the ideas I've got for this module and the ways in which I want to get you thinking about what might be beyond a unit like this, what might be beyond your degree. I shared this with some of my tute groups last week. When it comes to feedback, the feedback that's most readily available to you is feedback from yourself. Now, how reliable that is something for you to work out. You know, if you're really hard on yourself, chances are that it's not going to be as accurate as it might be. Likewise, of course, if you're particularly generous with yourself as well. But to be able to do honest evaluation of where you're going with a topic and with an idea is obviously going to be helpful. And throughout the module, I'll be building in that kind of self-reflection. I'll be trying to build that into the process. Peer feedback is another important element of what you get in any kind of education, but a university education in particular. It can be particularly important, and it's in much, you know, you've got some supply of that, nowhere near as great as the self, less peer, but certainly more than is available in terms of expert feedback and direct feedback. So I can't give direct feedback as a general rule. You'd have to seek some of that out, and I certainly encourage you to do that as best you can along the way, and to try and make some contact around, especially if you're having trouble with some things or things aren't clear. Just try and get that clarity. Of course, some of your peers may be able to help you with some of that clarity as well. But I think they're important things to bear in mind. Where do you get feedback? How do you get it? And This particular gentleman here, Eric Mazur, is a physicist. And he was an award-winning physicist at Harvard, a teacher. You know, he's winning teaching awards from the moment he started there. And after a couple of years, he was realizing that, you know, after getting all of these accolades as a first-year teacher of physics, the students were still going away and they didn't understand basic concepts such as inertia. You know, he was teaching it beautifully, but they hadn't really absorbed it in the way that he felt showed really effective teaching. He developed out of this insight, out of this realization, what he's come to call peer instruction. The learning system involving students preparing to learn outside of class, doing pre-class readings, answering questions about those readings, and then the instructors are going to be, basically getting students' responses, getting students to reflect, to commit to individual answers, and also, excuse me, working with each other, trying to pull out those ideas. The first year he started to teach inertia in this manner, he talks about he could, you know, being able to see the pennies drop in the class as things click so much more effectively with him. Now, we're not in the kind of discipline where the pennies can drop in quite the same way, I don't think. What we're involved in is an argumentative discipline. We're going to be developing our own ideas, our own perspectives on these things, and we're going to test them out with each other. That becomes part of what the aim should be. So what I'm going to do in a moment is drop you into a group of 4 or 5. And I really encourage you, first of all, to introduce yourselves. Please always do that. Know something of who you are, your global self, maybe one aspect of that from last week's work. To summarize Dudgeon's description of the anthropological perspective, and do that from memory. Now, that's the question I ask you just to carry in with you. We're summarizing Dudgeon's description of the anthropological perspective, and just see what you can remember. There should be 4 points that you come up with, and just see how much you can recall from that, and see what you can do together with it. Then I'll drop in some of the other questions, evaluating Miller Griffith and Marion's portrait of globalization. So the first reading, incorporating discussion of Apagyari's ideas, and then some brief discussion about how you went in applying these insights to the radio story on globalization. And I think the real question there for me is, how helpful is that in helping you, how well do they translate then into stories that are clearly about globalization? I'll drop in from time to time, not checking up on you, but just seeing how things are going. All right. Now, any questions about that before I launch into the next bit? I'm going to drop you now into some small groups. And the first thing, Dudgeon's representation of the anthropological perspective. What are some of the take-home key nutshell messages about that? And I'll check up on the chat whilst we get there. And okay, so I'm going to set up 10 rooms. And I'm going to open them up now. So you should be dropping into a room, Dudgeon, and the anthropological perspective.
Pitch. That's what I was wondering.
Hi, Martin.
Hey there, how you going?
Could we get some clarification with what we're kind of doing?
Right.
Are we on the PDF or the Wikipedia page? On the
that's the PDF one. The
oh, it is the PDF one.
it's the anthropological perspective. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we're a
Cool,
bit
alright.
confused about which one you wanted us to talk
Okay.
about.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll see if others are in that same predicament. Okay.
cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, that made it a bit clear.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's funny though how they said that the positives of globalization is that it kind of solves all the negatives of globalization. Like,
Yeah, but then they also kind of said that the positives of globalization.
in page 318, it says that the middle class were blocked by the elite who used their influence to press their interest, especially in rural areas. You know, I found this interesting because every time that somebody wants to talk about elite, people just go straight away into conspiracy and claiming that, you know, there's no somebody that controls the war or blah, blah, blah. But, you know, academics do talk about elites, so people in power that do make their own interests. And so I found that, you know, as it belongs
society works around the world now is very similar to the way that the Westerners wanted it in colonial times.
Yeah, so I guess in that light, globalization looks pretty negative because it's kind of just supported like colonial thinking and colonial.
Idea of flow and the scapes in one of the reading. It says there are 5 skates. Is that about us?
I think it was to everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, Martin.
Yes, it is. It's for everyone. That it's just trying to, you know, keep the conversation flowing into the different elements of that first reading. I'll drop out again. Any questions?
No, not from me.
No.
Nope. Okay.
All right.
Okay. I don't want to stop the conversation. I'll leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. Some parts of it's not that easy to understand, but I think that the main message from his point of view, at least, is that the difference with the new globalization is the intensity as well as how the new globalization is
homogenize ourselves with the culture, or like sort of get used to it, or like to adapt. And it's really difficult to get rid of our, okay, not difficult to get rid of, but more of like balancing between actually sort of
Okay, just throwing up another multiple choice question for you. So if you're coming in, I've just thrown up a quick multiple choice question. So how was that?
Good.
Good. Good. Okay. I'd be interested in, I think this is not the space to do it, not the time to do it, but I'd be really interested in feedback in there. You can imagine I'm sitting out here thinking, oh, well, I wonder what the hell's going on in there, you know, and is this, because first of all, is it productive use of time is one aspect of it. Well, good use of time might be a kinder way to think about that. But the other thing is, yeah, what's the pace like and so on? Because what I'm really clear about is I'm not going to keep pulling you in and out of a room. I need to get you into a room and get some questions moving through it, is my sense of it. So just a sense of pace and so on. And one of the other questions is just how do we get feedback? I mean, it's not clear to me if you're able to drop back out and say, Martin, we need some clarification. Are you able to send a message to me if you're in there?
I think when we write in the group chat, everyone receives the message.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Now
we can actually choose to write directly to you as well.
Okay. Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I will have email on and so on.
Oh,
all
no,
right.
I mean through the chat itself.
Through the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. The only thing there is I then have to make sure I'm attuned to chat as well, because I was also again, rookie stuff. Next time I'll have all the multiple choice questions ready, because I realize that I don't have to put them together in Spot. They do file quite well. I just needed to trust that system, because that's the first time I've used it. And so that's good. All right, let's not get too lost there, because there's a couple of other things I do want to know, a couple of other points I do want to make. Is there anything in, just hang on. Yeah, will these workshops ever be face-to-face? No, they won't. Not in current. And I've got to say, I'm really trialing it with a view to the future, regardless of what happens in the next couple of years. I just think the accessibility of this can add dimensions, and the face-to-face can happen through the tutorials. Anyway, that's just, again, I don't want to get lost there. Okay, let's have a look at the, I'm going to end the polling. Got most of you in there, 95% response rate. And the best answer is the one that is the popular one, globalization. And that's a direct quote, in fact, from the textbook, you know, when they have their key terms at the end. However, I could also see, if we weren't doing multiple choice, I could see why you might want to put an argument for an idioscape, because it's about the flow of global ideas and how they then get embedded into local forms. That is actually a reasonably accurate reflection of what Apantarai says. So it's kind of interesting then if you've got the chance to argue your case. And this is actually a really good example, wouldn't it? If it could drop you into the room and say, okay, nut this one out, because I don't think it's as straightforward as it seems. And then the other thing that you'll see writers saying, But that is globalization. Globalization is precisely that. It's not about some sort of pure group sitting over here who get somehow sullied by these ideas moving around. That's the way culture works. Culture has that kind of dynamic to it. It is always shifting along. We're always producing something new at the same time as we're reproducing the old. You know, so we could, if we could get more nuance than a multiple choice question allows, we actually, if we were writing that as an essay, if I was writing as an essay, I wouldn't be able to help myself. I'd be trying to make that point. And if you'd made those kind of points, that actually would show a level of engagement with the ideas that would be clear. Homogenization, I think that one's a harder one to put an argument for, or maybe you need to interrogate if you're one of those who put that forward, why you did that. But although, well, yeah, I see. It's not homogenization though, because it really is suggesting a melding of the two. So getting that distinction worked out in your head, I think, will be helpful for you. Okay, now I just want to go to a little bit of feedback around what we've just been doing. I realize we've only got 5 minutes or so to do this. Let me just share a couple of elements of that then. So when it comes to the anthropological perspective, if you were reasonably comprehensive with this, it's the emphasis on culture, the cultural. Worth pointing out though, that's such an American perspective. British anthropology did without the culture concept for a long time. American anthropology really developed that idea. British took it. They were much more focused on the social. They had much stronger links with sociology, in fact, than American anthropology did. It's comparative, it's cross-cultural. The comparative element is a really key dimension, I believe, and really helps complement sociological ideas. Sociology tends not to do it in those kind of comparisons. The comparisons will be within societies rather than between them for the most part. Evolutionary and historical reflects again an American take on this. 4 fields of anthropology, which would include linguistics and would also include archaeology and would also include human anthropology, or the biological anthropology. So they have also an ecological focus as well. But holism is certainly another strong commitment of anthropology. It's one of its strengths, but by God, when you're trying to write about societies and you keep wanting to get all of the elements together, it can also become its own trap. If we look at Miller Griffith and Marians, I'm just going to quickly go through some of the ideas I've got, just as a way of checking for yourselves, a little checkpoint for yourselves. They certainly emphasize that the globalization of the current period is more about speed rather than scope. It's a difference of degree rather than kind, is I think the kind of argument that they're putting forward here. Whereas I think the second reading is saying, no, there's something different going on at the same time, right? So that we've got that, and we'll probably nut some of that out in the tutorials in the coming days. Heavily influenced by a plagiarized flow metaphor and scapes idea, and as you're probably picking up, that's not surprising. Many people are. It is the most influential idea of the last 20 years or so when it comes to this, and remains so. So it's worth interrogating the degree to which it speaks to the experience. How helpful do you find it in writing, in thinking about it? They do have an emphasis on an agency. So globalization is, I believe, how they tend to really see what's going on. They're very keen to recognize that people make decisions around what's going on. So it's not just a simple homogenization process. They certainly point out that it's both cultural and economic. You'd expect that of a holistic discipline, would you not? Mixed in terms of beneficence. It has both negative and positive effects. I don't think they've really kind of teased that out very much other than to suggest that. And mixed in terms of mixing, the degree to which it's homogenizing, heterogenizing, kind of a mixed response around it, although really consistent with their ideas. I think they'd always be trying to say, but people will adapt it to local conditions, which is again very consistent with the plagiarized ideas. My screen's trembling. Is it doing it for you too? Or is it staying reasonably? Is it just my local computer? Agency and structure are in dynamic tension in their discussion of it. Now, we're going to tease that out at some point. I was hoping to do it today, but I realized that there wasn't time to do that. And they do talk about the ancient roots of globalization. So their focus there, again, I'd expect that of an anthropological perspective with the evolutionary historical look at this. And I think they do offer an argument that's about difference of degree rather than kind. I want to just close by contemplating, no, nearly get to close, the drunken uncle question, as I've come to call it. I wonder how many of you have had something like this. Why the hell are you doing a BA? What's all this about? Why would you do an arts unit or whatever it may be? And I think that we've often have ourselves a little dilemma in that we can find ourselves not able to, we don't have necessarily a well-developed narrative around this. But just recently, there's a number of the big companies are offering us a really useful way of starting to answer that drunken uncle question. You know, you're at the barbecue and you get asked that question. Oh, what you're doing a BA kind of thing. Well, I think we can come back at it by starting to point out, Deloitte's here, skills shortages. They did a research into the job adverts of the last, I think it was the 5 years previous. This study's about 2 years old now. And they found that these were the sort of skills that were being identified: teamwork, digital literacy, self-management, problem solving, innovation, professional ethics, critical thinking, absolutely vital in the workplace. And I would argue things that a degree in anthropology, sociology can certainly offer, a BA can certainly offer, and probably does better than most degrees in addressing these kind of things. They're actually saying that these are the skills shortages that Australia currently experiences, and are projecting that this is going to just increase on us because these are the skills of the 21st century. So the BA is a degree for the 21st century, is part of what I would like to put to you. Future Jobs Report, 2018 report. They give an even stronger list of, an even longer list, technology design and programming. Okay, well, we're not going to be addressing that, but how to deal with digital data, how to actually think about this, the social life of that kind of data is vital. Initiative, complex problem solving, analytical thinking, innovation, originality, active learning, learning strategies. You're well used to that and being able to apply them yourselves. Attention to detail, critical thinking, etc., etc. My screen actually disappears off there, but I think I think there are ways of developing a narrative around this, and I actually want to suggest to you that that should be one of your aims, is to be able to develop a narrative around what you're doing, the kinds of skills you're learning, and being able to pick that up. I'm going to be asking the people from the UWA Career and Employability Award to run a workshop or two with us. We'll probably work out ways. Some of that may tack on to this particular session, or we may offer an independent one for this. But we're going to start finding ways of inviting you to think about the kinds of skills. I'm assuming most of you are in first year. I know some of you will be in third year as well. You'll be at different stages of your degree. But just to think about the ways in which you can start to contemplate what you're doing and start to recognize the projections for it, so that you can start to develop a CV that fits, that really starts, I think, to address the skill shortages in the future. Now, folks, I do recognize these are strange, strange times, and I would imagine that there are many kind of insecurities around the future here, but I'm just hoping that we can find some ways of helping make it look like, but being able to position yourself well into that job market in the future. So we will get some of that going in this particular session. So the tutorials of this week, I just thought I'd quickly give you some feedback there. We're going to focus on the second reading, and it'll be a close reading of text that we're really trying to invite here. Peer instruction feedback, again, that kind of a processing of it. Hand in the worksheets for the face-to-face class. I got asked that question earlier. Just hand them in. I'll just have a box there for those sessions. And those of you who are online, you'll get instructions from Mitch about that. Are there any further questions?
Is there a way to, like, if we're doing face-to-face tutorials, can we hand in our worksheets online so we don't have to like print them and like? Okay, well, I'll see if I can organize that. It's just that creates another layer of collection that I'm trying to avoid if I can. We can talk about that tomorrow just to work that out. I mean, there might be just another way, Jonathan, of me just getting a citer. that can be the other way of dealing with these things. All right, because I'm not going to be doing any kind of evaluation of it unless you want
that unless you want to come and talk to me about it. Okay, study groups for the unit. There's something going already on Facebook. That's great to see. Any further questions? What I think I will do is I'll leave this open. I'm going to stop the recording.